Welcome to Ever Beyond on Wolf Spirit Radio. Be prepared to leave your belief systems behind as we go beyond teachers, beyond gurus, beyond duality, ever beyond, 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 beyond. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on where you are, on this beautiful blue-green globe spinning in space, being schlepped behind a great yellow star. Anyway, yeah, here we are. This is Ever Beyond. Tonight's show is a very exciting one. We have new news from Egypt, whatever's been going on in Egypt on the 21st of December and all this stuff. And from the inner worlds and the outer worlds with Rebecca Jernigan. And then in the second hour, we'll be joined by Gary, the numbers guy. And I tell you, that's going to be fast-moving because I'm sure he's got a whole bunch of new numbers to talk about. So, now, Rebecca was saying that she couldn't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Hello, JP. I can hear you perfectly now.
Right. Okay. Let's just set your volume there.
Except for when you move your face away from your mic.
Okay, I'll speak to the. I have to speak to the mic. You see, if I'm looking at the mixer and I'm speaking to the mic, it's only a very small, 6 inches that I'm looking between. But anyway, it seemed to make a difference. So I'll make sure that I'm talking straight to you. Hello, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much on this Sunday afternoon, evening, or morning, depending on where you're at in the world.
Yes. So you've been away. And you come back.
Yeah, in more ways than one.
It's taken a while for that to happen.
So, it really did.
So
it really has, absolutely.
It's lovely to have you back in amongst the fold, as it were. Or
yes.
sort of curling up in the corner of the den. In the wolves' den, here in northern Scotland. Anyway, so it's... this is, very lovely to see. I have to say, given Mike's, dream event thing that he had, where everybody was being shot at and stuff was going on, I was just, of course, it has to be in the back of your mind. So I'm very glad that you're back.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I actually, before I left, I think I shared with you, I'm not sure if I did, but I'm pretty sure I did, in which I was viewing 3 separate timelines before I got ready to go. And 2 of those timelines actually did have in there what we would call military presence with guns, and were ushering the group that I was with out of a building into somewhere else. And it was very frantic, kind of a thing by the members of the group. And so, I viewed that many, many times before I actually went on the trip. And I can tell you, the day before I got ready to leave to go on the trip, I actually didn't know if the trip was even going to happen, because I was waiting to see how the events were to unfold, because obviously the information coming out of Egypt was, oh my gosh, it's, under all this chaos, and people are shooting each other, and they're lining up in the streets, and, there's all this violence going on, and, et cetera, and so forth. And, what we heard from people that were actually there, one of them being our guide, was that really wasn't the case, that some of the pictures even that had been posted, either by the news media or on the internet, was actually from somewhere else in the world. It wasn't even taking place in Egypt. So he was, he was very, very concerned for the safety of the Americans, and that was the way that I always felt. I thought, if there really was something, regardless of whether it's political or not, that was going on that really would make this dangerous for anybody that was an Egyptian going to that country, they would lock that down and there would be no planes going in or out. They would not allow that to be happening for people to come visit their country. It just wouldn't happen. I mean, logic will tell you that, right? So when I looked at it from that viewpoint just before I left, I just got this, it's going to be okay. No matter what transitions there, no matter what transpires, it's going to be okay. So let me share, and this was a story I did not get to share the other night when I was on the air. I think you'll get a kick out of this. One of my visions showed a man walking, a military man walking in front of me with, an automatic weapon, right? In this kind of military type of a uniform. It was definitely a uniform. And so the first day in, we go to the Cairo Museum, and, there are no police there. It's all military, by the way. Everything's military. The police have left the building. It's a long political story. But anyway, I come out of the Cairo Museum, and here is this dude that was in my vision walking in front of me with his automatic weapon in the same uniform, the same exact man. And I just kind of giggled and I went, okay, now I understand. That's just what they do is they walk around. The Cairo Museum does have an awful lot of artifacts, obviously, in it. I mean, it's just jam-packed full of stuff. And that's always been the norm over there was the military walking around because they don't really have anything locked down over there. It's not like if you visit the United States where everything is behind glass or roped off or, otherwise unreachable or unattainable. You can't get to it unless you really, really work hard at it. Whereas in the Cairo Museum, there's very few things that are actually kind of kept under glass. And when it is, you actually have to pay to go into those rooms, and they still have military presence inside the Cairo Museum. That's just the nature of that country.
That's lovely.
So I kind of giggled. I was like, well, there's the dude in my vision.
Is this the universe like messing with your head or something?
It is.
Just taking the mick.
Well, here's the other portion of that. Right. And I talk about this a lot. And so this will give you a better understanding of why I repeat these things that I do. Make no assumptions. So if I was to take just that little vision that I had, right, and the other two timeline visions that I had, well, I would have cowered under the covers and never come out. Yep. Because the understanding would be, oh my God, you're going to be, kidnapped, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or whatever, right? And so you can get very frightened by just pieces of information. You don't have the front end, you don't have the back end, you just have kind of just this little segment, and it can certainly be taken totally out of context. Now let me tell you the other portion of this. Remember I told you about the other two timelines, and they're kind of hurrying us out, and there's a military type guy that's standing there with this automatic rifle, right? Well, we are in Saqqara, and it's kind of a strange temple, because the temple itself, you go down in it. It's, they haven't excavated around it, so you actually go down in it. And as we're there, I'm standing there before I go down, and there's people that are walking all around, and they have this, mounds of sand and stuff that they have pulled up out of there, and it's just kind of, put up around there where they haven't, like I said, excavated it. So you're kind of going down into this, place down in. So this guy, again, another military guy, right? Because that's who's there. That they don't have police, they have military, and they're carrying an automatic weapon, right? And he stands behind me, and I hear this click, 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 and I turned around. He's got his gun, and he's standing right behind me, but his back is turned to me, and I'm looking, and he is trying to get the attention of somebody who is going out of bounds, what they consider out of bounds. They didn't want them where they were at in location. right?
All right. So they weren't aiming at you.
No, they weren't aiming at me at all. But then all of a sudden everybody got very hurried and ran around. I was like, oh, okay. So again, I had to kind of giggle. You know, I was like, okay, here's another one I took out of context, right? So make no assumptions. But I will tell you, you know, standing there, not ever having been a part of any kind of a scenario like that, is to have somebody stand behind you with an automatic rifle and start clicking it. You know, it is extraordinarily disconcerting.
I'd say.
It was a little, it just almost threw me off balance.
Yep. You know, as a Brit, we have these gun laws. So we don't see as many guns as you do. Actually, I probably hear more guns than most people in Britain because I live on a country estate where people on the 12th of August come and shoot the living crap out of anything that moves, just for fun, which is pretty sick, you know. Oh yeah, all right, yeah,
There you go.
We don't shoot each other. In general, the toffs, they generally shoot at the animals. Again, just for fun, but we don't shoot each other like your nobles do. We don't shoot each other in the face.
Yeah.
Like your nobility.
Yeah.
So anyway, so here's the thing. This is what I find quite interesting about what you're talking about here, is that if you extract that and abstract that towards the prophecies in general, and particular things like the revelations and even the webbot, all right? So you're remote viewing, let's say, into the future. You're viewing the timelines, the parallel timelines that all exist at the same time, and you're viewing these things, and what you're seeing is tiny fragments of these things, and then your mind, our mind, humanity's mind, always builds up a story out of that small amount of data. And it's very interesting how it all comes out, because, you know, we see, you know, everybody's seen Revelations and there's all these little things, or we've seen the Hopi prophecies, and they're all coming up. And that's going to be very interesting. And what they're all doing is giving us a bit of what's going to happen, but it doesn't mean that it's all going to go haywire. It's all going to go to hell in a bucket. Do you know what I mean? There's not going to be like a global war all at the same time.
You know, all right. So let me take this apart little by little. I want to address some of the different points that you made there. Number one is that, you know, I do those timeline past life regression workshops. You've attended one. And what happens is you go back into these timelines. I take people back. I regress them back to a timeline, allow them to explore it. They come back with a piece of information. Again, maybe a minute clip, maybe a 6-minute clip, whatever, you know, the case may be, right? You come back with a clip of information. Now, I always tell everybody, and you included, and I tell everybody, I say, okay, now you got some of the information, but you need to go back further than that. You need to keep going backwards in that same timeline. You have a place to start now, but you have to roll that back. How did you arrive to the point of where you're at? Because what you're looking at doesn't necessarily mean the way that it's unfolded. Again, not taking it out of context. They're huge about that. Again, it's all about not making assumptions. So whenever you're sitting back in a timeline, whenever you're looking at anything, viewing anything, you have to go backwards. You have to see, how did you arrive at that point? Because you're missing a huge, massive quantity of information if you just look at whatever that situation is, and only that situation. You can build it, like you said, you can build it into anything. And it may be so far from what the reality of that is that it doesn't even resemble it when you get back to that point. So I'm very, very cognizant of when I'm in these workshops is to make sure that people go back and continue to go backwards from the point of arrival into any timeline. Because it's not about, it's about their level of comfortability with what they're experiencing as well. So once they get a gist of it and they keep going back and they pull in a little bit more information, then they can expound on it. Then they become informed, not just making a theoretical or what they think is an educated guess, yes? So it's important. It's important that we understand whenever we're remote viewing, and that goes across the board, whoever's remote viewing, whoever's looking at these prophecies. And let's take a look at these prophecies.
That's right. Let's expand that, because that's what I want to take everybody beyond.
Yeah. So here we are, 2012's come and gone. All of the things that were prophesized. The 3 days of darkness, the pole shift, the alien invasion, the global war, this, that, and another thing, right? This is going to happen, that's going to happen, and yeah, they were being predicted that they would all happen right around the same period of time. But when we look at the scope of what we consider time, what is that? We use it as a unit of measurement. It's a year, it's a month, it's a day, it's a week, it's a minute, right? But there is no really edges or boundaries or boxes that time is in. It's only how we perceive it. So when we look at all these things that have been written, I'm talking about now about the written prophecy, about the things that can come to pass. People are taking it out of context. Because first of all, what's the back end story? How did they arrive to even put that information down in written form? What pieces of information do you not have? When you go back, and if you go back and look at Revelations, and if you do some Google searches on the internet, you'll find that this is a true statement, no matter what your perspective is that many, many times throughout our history, our recorded history, our modern history, have they predicted that the book of Revelations, the end times, the Armageddon, Judgment Day, whatever you want to call it, has been upon us. Because you can take those events, that verbiage, that wording, and it can apply to just about any time frame you want to slide it into, can it not?
Well, this is where Cliff Heyer's been useful, because he's given us words for these things. And he uses this word, a temporal marker. A biblical version is in the times when the sun goes dark, stuff like that. When that moment.
So what does that mean when the sun goes dark?
Yeah,
could be talking about a solar eclipse.
Yeah, very much so. It could be that. It could be 3 solar eclipses. 3 days of darkness don't necessarily have to come one after the other, do they?
No, they do not. We make the assumption.
Yeah, we could say that 3 days of darkness in 1 year.
Exactly. So maybe that's the marker.
Yeah. That's the funny thing, all this stuff might have already happened and we just didn't notice.
And James in your chat box there is talking about, well, maybe it's not on this timeline. And I do believe that we are literally, and we've talked about this, about the timeline convergences, right? That because you call it the compression of time, as we kind of moved in through this galactic center, I think that's what you were talking about, is this kind of compressing. So if we're compressing all those timelines, we could be like popping from one potential to another, right? A potential outcome, a potential situation doesn't mean it's going to manifest in the one that we're conscious of in this timeline.
That's right. And it may protrude into those timelines in a different manner. You might get a different corner of it poking into your timeline universe, where it doesn't look, it doesn't appear so big or so awesome or, awful, whatever.
Right. And I call that bleed through. Sometimes you can sit and like something will come in and you go, now where did that come from?
Yeah.
And then if you really stop and look at the energetics of how it shows up, you can begin to ascertain that sometimes it's a bleed through, sometimes it's just a wayward thought that comes through, sometimes it's the collective consciousness having a little, solar flare kind of a thing going on. There's many, many reasons for it, but you have to become sensitive to figure out what is the source of whatever happened to show up in the moment.
Yeah,
Make sense?
It's a bit like the taxi cab coming past the PA system, and you're doing a concert, a classical concert, and he comes right over the PA. It's like a bleed through. He's not meant to be communicating with you, but somehow your equipment and their equipment became harmonic and
right
and
for that moment. Exactly.
And so that's what we call prophecy.
Yeah.
So. Should we have a look at these things, or actually, there's so much more because I pointed you out to a recording from Cobra the other day.
Yes, I did listen to that.
And this other guy, what was his, Rob Potter or something like that. Anyway, they were another group who went to Egypt at the same time as you.
Yes.
How fascinating. So. What was that like, listening to them talking about the things that you'd experienced yourself?
Well, first of all, there's like different levels. First of all, there's the political or the physical aspect. What's going on in the physicality of Egypt? And I'll address that quickly here. Talking about how difficult it was to get from one place to the other, that the military and that was the other thing is. I spoke about it on Carrie's show on Friday night. I had a show with her, where I was invited onto the Whistleblower Radio, and we talked about this a little bit of it. Tourism is down by 80% in Egypt. The point behind that is that's been a very carefully contrived plan, is to scare people away from Egypt. We still don't know all the real reasons. I suspect it's because it's one of the larger PowerPoints that came into play on the 21st, the 22nd of December, and all the events leading to, and there's still some coming in after. There's still some more events, by the way, that are going to show themselves, and we'll talk about that maybe today, maybe not. But anyway, it was a carefully devised plan to keep people out of Egypt. They did not want people in there meditating. They did not want people in there to interrupt the dark powers that were trying to keep control of that which they really technically in many levels have already lost control of, and they just don't want to relinquish it. It's pretty fascinating stuff, actually. So these guys were experiencing the same things. The pyramids were closed down. There were certain sites that were closed down. No rhyme or reason. Just all of a sudden you'd show up and they'd go, "No, sorry, you can't be here." They didn't allow for meditation. So that was a huge correlation. The fact that all the guides that take their tours in have to bribe people just to even go in there and see what's even available. I mean, this isn't even the stuff that's secreted away. This is just normal tourism stuff that people that would go in on any given day would be able to see. And yet they, now that it's like the landscape of the rules, so to speak, have changed because tourism is literally 80% of their GNP. I mean, that's how Egypt fares, is by all of the tourism it gets.
Yeah, and it's probably why Egypt hasn't got gross starvation everywhere and things like that.
Well, they don't need to, because 80%, and here's this 80%. I notice that all the time, even now. 80% of the population of Egypt lives on 20% of the land, which is the Nile, which is the delta. They have 4 growing seasons a year. They're actually a very self-sufficient country. They're self-sufficient. They grow all their fruits and vegetables all year round. They have their own chickens and beef, and they don't require any imported foods. They can feed all of their people and then some. They grow these beautiful flowers, and here's a real interesting fact, is they grow all these wonderful flowers. They then work with these flowers, and what they do is they extract all the essence, the oils out of them, the essences.
Yeah, essential.
And do you know they supply almost all of France's essence is that they go in and make all of these famous name perfumes and colognes. Most of the oils come out of Egypt. So there's another kind of business
Oils
that they
and
do as
spices
well.
of the Middle East.
Yes, exactly. Very fascinating. That country doesn't really need anyone else for its survival in regards to food and shelter. And, obviously the weather there doesn't get too dramatically cold for them. It gets obviously very, very warm. But, they're used to that. But they are very self-sufficient people. But for those that live in Cairo, it's a huge city, and they rely on tourism in order to sell their goods. It is a very poor country. They're not wealthy people at all. It's a very poor country. But they can take care of themselves if they have to. And they have been. They've been having to do that for the last couple of years because tourism is down by 80%.
So, that's fascinating. What about the gold? Have they got gold that America wants?
Hold on just a second. I'm going to sneeze.
All right.
So
Bless your heart.
keep talking.
Bless your heart and lungs and bronchial tubes. Oh, is that a long sneeze? Oh,
I've been sneezing all day off and
Is that a multiple?
Yeah, I've 2 or 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And they're enormously loud. What was the question? Let's see, and I wanted to answer it, and then we started talking about my sneezing.
All right, yeah. Yeah, and, well, I mean, basically, we'd gotten the gist of how things were, as you perceived it in Egypt. So,
here's where I want to go with this.
Okay, yeah.
To get back on track here. When we were there, they have a new president, Morsi, and the people and the police body, they're not supporting them. And while we were there, they had a constitutional vote. Okay, very interesting about this constitutional vote because they had one constitutional vote for part of the country on one weekend. The second constitutional vote for the other portion of the country, right? And then they were going to tally it up. And I've never seen a country that didn't have a vote that all took place on one day. Instead, they broke it up over 2 weekends. So they had one vote on one Saturday and another vote on another Saturday. And then we didn't find out what happened with that until the day, I think the day that we all got ready to leave there, which was like on the 23rd, I think it was, or the 24th, before we knew what the actual vote ended up being there to vote on this constitution that Morsi put together. It was really fascinating. Also, we arrived there, and within 2 days, they had closed some of the temple sites and some of the pyramids. They just closed them down and ran all the business off, just closed them down on 12/12 of 12. And then they also closed out the Giza pyramid. Only few people actually ended up being able to get up to the pyramid on that day. And it was only because of those that were, the guards had been bribed, but, like a regular group that went in there, they were never going to be able to get in there. They were turned away. And that was the correlation between this Rob and Cobra guy with the experiences there, is that he was talking about some of the same and similar things. Also talking about the energetics that took place. And so I want to share with you a vision that I had the day, I think it was either the day or two before we went back to we never got there, but, before we went to the Giza pyramid, to the large one there, the Great Pyramid. I had a dream or a vision, and in this vision there were a circle of giant beings. That's the only way I can word this, giant beings, and they were circling around the pyramids. Like they were building this energy, right, around the pyramids. And I got this kind of like crazy feeling when I looked at them, like, just in some other space that I couldn't get there from here, it was that kind of really off balance kind of stuff. But as I was watching, this taking place, I was looking at it going, wow, this is just very odd. What is it that I'm looking at? There were what we would call 3 or 4 within this group that was doing this kind of dancing and chanting around the pyramids. There were what we would term as like white hats. They were infiltrators of the light, okay, that these other beings didn't realize that they were, part of something else. And they were taking all this energy that they were building and funneling it back out into a positive way. So it was a huge indication to me that, all the light workers around the world that were so involved with this around the globe of anchoring and bringing in and acknowledging this beautiful energy, this positive energy that was coming through. There was the manifestation of our helpmates right there. It was phenomenal. Never once over there, when I was over there, JP, did I feel unsafe or unsettled. It was actually a really, really surreal experience for me. Like I was half out of my body the whole time I was there. Very odd sensation to have. Since when I got on the plane, it was like, okay, so, we're just going to put you in this neutral space. And that's where I stayed until after I got back. Very interesting.
That's very interesting. Another of our guests and co-host is Katie Galanti, and she had a very similar experience of being in multiple places or being kind of slightly distant, slightly out of it. Everybody seems to have been going through some kind of surreality. I've certainly felt a surreal feeling about the last few weeks. It was extraordinarily surreal. The whole time I was over there, and I kept having to go, I guess I'm in Egypt. I'm in Egypt. What does that mean? It's very, very interesting, right? Yeah. But anyway, I want to kind of tie up the Cobra / Rob thing. When I was listening to him, he was talking about that they did see UFOs in the daylight over the Giza Pyramid, and we did see some helicopters flying, which was actually quite rare because we were at one of the temples, and there was all these helicopters all of a sudden that just showed up out of nowhere and started flying around, and then people started jumping in their cars and literally screaming out of these places to follow these helicopters. It was like it was this apparently was an event that was kind of spectacular because people were like, oh my God. And at one point I pointed it out to a couple of the group. I said, watch. I said, look, they're looking at them and they're following them. And sure enough, they did. It was amazing. To watch the dynamics and to watch the kind of push-pull of energy of who's doing what and what was going to happen and what wasn't going to happen, and et cetera and so forth. But I'm going to tell you, all the light workers that were there and the ones that were, were physically there, as well as the ones that were emotionally and spiritually and mentally there, we helped to anchor this energy regardless of what the Dark Cabal thought they might have gotten away with. Brilliant. So, tell us about that experience that you called Reset and how it's been affecting you in the last couple of weeks up to today. Okay, so I guess you need to refresh my memory of my experience that I was talking to you about. I'm an experiencer, so everything. I'm sorry? King's Chamber. In the King's Chamber. Oh. Yeah. That was a tripping out moment there. That was actually quite a tripping out moment. I first started out in the Queen's Chamber. I want to start in there first because that kind of leads to what happened when I moved up into the King's Chamber. Okay, hang on a second. I've never been to the pyramid, right? Right. But I know that some of the parts of it are like really difficult to move, get into. Can you just walk into it? Have they got like a little slope and a ramp, and it takes you down?
Well, when I get my
do you have to stand up or crouch down to get in or something?
Yeah, both. Well, when you walk in the pyramid itself, when you walk up to the pyramid, there's a very, very, very narrow stairway, and it's cut out of stone. It's it's not like concrete poured steps or something. And it's very narrow. You get up in it, and it literally feels like you're going into a cave in the very beginning. And you can walk upright. You walk all the way upright. We were afforded an ability to go below. There's a chamber below that they've opened up, and they allowed us to go below. Now, I did not go below the surface. Everybody else went below the surface, and I went on up into the Queen's chamber. Now, what happens is you go up there, and you have these very narrow kind of stairs, if you want to call them that go up, rungs. They're like rungs of a ladder almost. And then you kind of walk down, and you kind of have to bend over. I'm not very tall. I'm only 5 foot. I had to bend over to walk through this very long corridor to get into the Queen's chamber. And when you get in there, you get right into just before the Queen's chamber. There's a kind of this, it looked like to me granite slab, highly polished granite slab. And I remember thinking, wow, that just seems so out of place here. So I honestly do not know if that had been added. I never asked anybody about it, or if that was a part of the original structure. But you actually walk by an opening before you get to the Queen's chamber. I was just kind of being led to keep going into the Queen's chamber. And when you get in there, of course, you can stand upright. One of the things that I noted about it was as I got in there and I started looking around, there was a kind of an archway. It was built into the pyramid, this archway, and there's another little tunnel leading off of there that they have since grated over. There's a big metal grate there. It's very dark and you can't get through it. And there's also like this alcove that it sits back in. It's quite high up, so it would take quite a tall person to be able just to sit down on this. For me, I'd actually had to have crawled up onto this ledge inside this alcove where this other chamber went off that you couldn't get to. And I thought, well, now that's fascinating. And so I stood in the middle of the Queen's chamber, and I don't remember what I said out loud, but I said something out loud. And I'm the only person there, by the way, in the Queen's chamber at that point. I'm the only person in there. And I said something, and it's not like an echo. It doesn't echo, but what it does do is it seems to move. It seems to find a way of moving through this very carefully constructed, designed building in order to arrive at whatever the destination point is. My understanding is what they said to me, and I don't know if this is truth or not. I'm not even sure if this is true. What other people have told me was that the Queen's chamber was for healing, that you would do the healing work and it would be sent up through the pyramid. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea at all. But all I can tell you is that the sound travels in there. It doesn't echo, it travels. It literally moves. You can almost feel the energetics of it moving. But more than that, there's like these, when you say something, it's like you say something, and then you say something, and then you say something, and you say something. It's got all these tones that you repeat all at the same time. It comes out one side of your mouth, but it almost like breaks it down into different levels of harmony, sound and frequency. Yes.
It's like a choir automatically harmonizing with you. How fantastic. That must be to do with the, is it like a kind of rectangular room?
It is. That one is more rectangular, absolutely. The walls are very smooth.
Very smooth. So that will get what you call a slapback echo. And that will happen in 3 directions, the up and down. How high is the ceiling?
30 feet.
Oh, quite high.
Oh, it's huge, honey.
All right.
It's huge. It's very tall.
Okay, now, all right. So bear in mind that we had this theory, okay, that we've been building up. Because you're partly responsible for bringing.
Oh, it's not my fault. It's okay.
Yeah. So we have this plasma generator, in the King's Chamber, what's called the King's Chamber. Now, if you were to look at it on another perspective, and you look at the pyramid from a small distance, you know that the King's Chamber is located, and you had X-ray vision. You know that the King's Chamber is located 1/3 of the way down, or 1/3 of the way up towards the top. That's what we call a harmonic point. Now, the thing is about a pyramid is that the pyramid exists not as a single pyramid, but it's actually an octagon. Two pyramids are there as like a reflection underneath. So when you have a pyramid at the top, there's always a pyramid underneath. And the resonance goes between the 2 points. Now, you can have a capstone, but it would still work. It would still do its job if it didn't have a capstone. But it does need a capstone. Apparently, according to one of my guests, if you stand on the top of the pyramid, you can't see the pyramid anymore. That must be the scariest thing.
Actually, that wouldn't surprise me, because I'm telling you that was and I'll get back to what we were talking about because it's important. I'll talk to you about the King's Chamber. But one of the things that I really did recognize when I walked into the pyramid, when I got into there, I was like, this is a place in time, out of time. Even though it stands here, it doesn't stand here. That was the feeling I got. It was like, it was very bizarre, and the energetics are just as strong as they ever were. I was really, I thought, well, gosh, I'm going to get into all these wonderful temples and everything, and because there's been literally probably billions of people that have been in it, the sites are probably pretty contaminated. They probably just got too many layers and levels of stuff before you can really experience it. Not true. All of these temples, and this includes the pyramid, they seem to be able to vibrate at their original, or close to, what I would assume is close to, making an assumption here, a theoretical guess, if you will, that these, because of just what I experienced, and it could be just because I had cleared all my field out, maybe that was the point of it as well. Maybe other people don't feel this, but when I walked into any site or any pyramid, what it felt like was that I was literally in the energies, in a higher vibration of these energies. You could feel, you could hear, you could sense what was really going on, and you didn't have to dig real deep in order to get to what was the point behind this, what was really being said or done here. Does that make sense how I said that?
Yeah, so what did you get to? I mean, what was being said?
What it is what I felt was in the Queen's Chambers, that there were things that were, and all I can do is tell you how I felt about it, how I experienced it, because I don't have anything to reference it to. This is the first time I've talked about this portion of it too, JP.
That's right.
When I spoke in there, and then I was doing some, my own experimentations, and I spoke again. And again, it doesn't matter what I said. It was like, where is this going? What is it doing when you have sound coming from, when sound is here? And I got this feeling that this sound carried frequency and vibration that not only was assisting, but it also traveled outwards. Again, if you want to go to the fact that it's like it's there and it's not there at the same time, it's that feeling of almost fluxing while you're in the pyramid. Make sense how I'm saying that? Probably not.
It's the construction of the room is built that the distances are harmonically related, and
so it doesn't matter what you say or what you do in there, it carries outside of our known fields. That's what I got.
Right, okay.
I couldn't even tell where they landed, so to speak.
They must go down to the subterranean part. Now, it's very interesting, right? The Queen's Chamber is situated right in the middle.
Right.
It's at ground level, but right in the center of the pyramid. Which they say, pyramid is supposed to be fire, amid, in the middle. So if there was a plasma generator in the King's Chamber at the third. What is that doing to the... what's going to happen in the room below? What kind of field is it going to be generating that will then appear in that room? I think that room was even more powerful than it was when you were standing in it.
Well,
It's like the whole place is like you're standing in a MRI unit when the thing's not switched on.
Well, here's what I understand is that when I was in the Queen's Chamber, and I was in there for a long time, I was able to be there because I was directed not to go to the subterranean. My guides asked me to go up to the Queen's Chamber. That's why I didn't go to the subterranean level. I just went right to the Queen's Chamber because that's where they told me to go. They didn't tell me to go to the King's Chamber. They said, go to the Queen's Chamber. And I was mesmerized. I stood in there for the longest of time. And I felt like I was in and out of time. There was like a massive quantity of download of information that I still can't even begin to explain. I would tell you that I don't think that you're off base with that statement, because now I want to go to the King's Chamber and explain that experience so that you can see the difference between the two experiences. Now again, I'm not thinking to myself when I leave the Queen's Chamber and I get to the King's Chamber, I'm going to have the same experience. I'm not having any thoughts. I'm just there, right? So I go on up to the King's Chamber. And when I get there, there's some people already there and they were meditating. Most of them did not even come into the Queen's Chamber. I remember as I got acclimated to it and I was looking around the King's Chamber, I thought, okay. And I started listening to what people were saying because they were meditating out loud. And again, I got that same hearing, which is, what you call the choir effect. Somebody would say something and it would be at 6 or 8 different levels. I could hear different tones in the same word, and it literally was differentiated. Seriously, it was like there was a layer and another layer and another layer. It was very specifically layered. I never hear like that. I don't hear like that. I don't ever hear like that. I was absolutely mesmerized by the effects that I was sensing in there. I mean, the acuteness. I mean, it's like you could almost see the atoms of the sound. It was freaky. And so I was listening and I thought, okay, this is the one that goes out. This is the one that goes out, and this is the one that reverberates everywhere. This is the one that you send it through, but this is not the end all to end all. This is the amplification chamber.
Yes.
And that's the only way I know how to word it.
Well,
everything that you do is amplified on multi-dimensional levels.
Yes, and it's tuned, it's harmonized.
Yes.
So it's made to be fitting with the universe.
Yes.
So, okay, so we got this thing that's sitting above the room, that is generating some kind of power field.
Yes.
And then something is in this room. Something appears in this room. I would think that there would be did you see something like a tangible vortex? Some sort of like a rotating, spinning thing in any way.
What I saw, and I was asked not to pay too much attention to it. Truly, I was. What I saw in there was there's a slab, a big slab, a granite slab in there, and then behind that is that empty sarcophagus. And what I noticed in there was like a white mist kind of formulates. It actually became quite almost foggy looking. And I was asked not to look at it because I had something I needed to do. Please understand, I didn't know what it was I needed to do. I'm just following what I'm being asked to do because that's the reason why I'm here. I have reached the pinnacle of my journey as to why I went to Egypt. And I did not know this, JP, until I got to that moment. That's what I was here for.
So
I have to be very honest with you.
That's brilliant. So our tour guide into discovery. Tell us.
There you go. It was fantastic. So there was this kind of like fog thing that I was asked not to look at it, so I didn't. Instead, I just stood. I stood, and I was just I can't even describe the energies. They're not of this world. That's all I can say. They're not of anything that I can put my finger on. And so as people were going through their meditations, it became quiet for a moment. And then I said, I don't know, maybe a dozen words? Maybe? I don't know. It was very short. And I remember hearing the words coming out of my mouth. Can't tell you what they were now. But I remember hearing the words coming out of my mouth, and I felt like the words didn't even come from me. That was probably the most interesting portion of that. That the words of this meditation didn't even come from me, but they came out of my mouth. And I sensed these levels and this connection on a multi-dimensional level that I've never experienced before. And everything turned that color blue. Remember me telling you all about my blue dreams?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I've had all these blue dreams for all these years. And they're pieces. They're all these little pieces of something that I didn't know what they meant. A piece here and a piece there and a piece here and a piece there. What are these blue dreams? Well, while I was there, I was having visions in blue, in that same color blue, off-world blue. We call it blue because it's the closest color I can call it, but it doesn't actually exist on this earth plane. You can't create it. But it's as close as I can get to just description of a color of anything I've ever seen. It's a blue. It's a form of our color blue. And as I was standing there and I was meditating, and then I after I got done speaking, it was like somebody took my hand and closed my hand, and my thumb was sitting out, right? My thumb was pointing out, and pushed my finger down on something. I don't know what it was because there's nothing there because I was standing up. I wasn't near anything. And I pushed something, and when I did, I heard everything's reset. But what I felt and what I saw in about maybe 30 seconds was a complete conglomeration of every one of those dreams, those visions I had, how they all connected up, how they all made sense, what was the reason behind this one and why it led to that one, et cetera and so forth. I had 3 or 4 past life connections as to who was there, when I'd been there before, what my agreement was as to why I was there, the moment that I made the agreement to come back during this time to complete the mission, which is what I did, health issues, family issues, connection to a whole group of beings that I have not spoken to specifically before that all came in. And I mean, there's so many depths and levels to this. It would take me an hour to explain what happened in 30 seconds. It was the biggest download I've ever had of anything. And it happened so fast and so quick and so concise and so clearly. And yet I experienced like no vertigo, no sickness, none of that stuff. It was just there. It was just this extreme expansion in that moment. And when I hit my thumb on that, whatever it was, the reset button, this burst of energy went out, and all of these meditations, all these prayers, all these things, all these people that were a part of this mission connected up in that moment, and they anchored the energy to this earth. That's what happened.
That's what I've been wanting to hear. I'm glad you said that on my show. That's great. Thank you.
It was, and wow. I sit back and I look at it, and I still, honestly, have not digested all of it. It's just massive, massive quantities of information that I have yet to wade through on a conscious level. Just massive, multidimensional. And the most interesting thing was, I sat there after the reset button thing happened, right? Then I got nothing. There was nothing. It was just like this blankness. And I kept my eyes closed, and I could hear myself breathing. And I thought, okay, I'm done. And then I heard mission complete. And I left the King's Chamber.
Nice.
I was in a daze. I was like, wow. Wow. I couldn't even talk about it. I hadn't even talked about it. I hadn't talked about it much at all because I couldn't. It took me 3 weeks just to even talk to anybody about the reset button after I got back. Seriously.
So somehow you managed to vibrate into another level where there is a console. You couldn't see it, but it exists on some other dimension that you're able to tune into. Is that right?
Yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I thought so. Is there a display panel? Was there a black light that lit up black when you pressed the black button?
No, but I want to share with you really quickly before we run out of time. I know you have another guest. I want to share this portion of it because this is so freaking cool. I kept having these visions at night, and then we would find ourselves in different places, and I'd go, oh, wow, so that's what this was about. So on one of them, it was the day before we got ready to go to the Sphinx. So that night, I had a vision of, we were all standing, most of the group was standing there at the foot, at the, it would have been if you're facing the Sphinx, it would have been the left foot, right foot on the Sphinx, but left if you're facing it. We were standing there, and this elder being was there, came in, stood there, did like this incantation. The foot of the Sphinx kind of disappeared, like a portal opened up is what it was. And a few of us from the tour group actually walked in there. So this is how I knew that some of the people that were there were the ones that were supposed to be there. Not everybody, but there was a few of them that I could recognize. They were, there's so-and-so and there's so-and-so. Interesting. We went down these hallways. We ended up into this room. I'm kind of making this story short. One of the things we ran across is the second Sphinx. Interesting thing is what they shared with me was this guide that said to us, he said, this one is female. The one that's above the ground that you all can see is male. This is his counterpart. This is the duality. But this is a female Sphinx, and the reason why she's still hidden is because they don't want the female energy, the divine feminine, to be present. And that's why they buried her. And that's why she hasn't been found. Well, that's why they haven't allowed her to be dug up yet. So they say there's a second Sphinx there. Then we were taken into this crossroads. There was this room in which there was all these hallways that led from it. But what was the most fascinating thing was you talked about the control panel. There was this podium thing standing in there somewhere, and in it I was feeling like something belonged there, but I didn't know what it was. But instead, my attention was drawn to the walls, because all along the walls of this hallway were like these plaques. And on these plaques were messages from these different races, different species that had come forward, that had left their mark, their messages to humanity, to whoever would discover it, of who they were, where they come from, and in it is our history, is our understanding, and is our knowing, and they're all put on these plaques. That's the only way I know how to express it, up and down this hallway that runs in an underground passageway underneath the Sphinx.
Hang on. Are you in a remote viewing situation, or are you there on the ground?
No, that was a night experience.
Oh, right, that was a night experience, right.
It's a night experience.
Because I was wondering whether you were telling me about something that you're... See, when you're talking about guides and you're actually in a foreign place,
I don't know who the guide was.
Yeah.
This man showed up in front of our group and said, hey, follow me, we're going down. I'm going to lead you downstairs. And then he did this incantation in front of there, and there was this little portal that opened up, and we went in and went down and ran by the one Sphinx. I mean, there was a lot more to say about it. There was a lot of things that we went by, and a lot of different tunnels, and it would kind of indicate where they went, what they were for, et cetera, and so forth. But the main room was the one that we stopped at, and all of these plaques. But the most interesting thing was, and this was one of the strangest night experiences I had, is because as he was explaining some things to us, all of a sudden he turned his head and he looked back at us and says, we must go, we have to leave now. And then he took us back up. So it was very interesting. I'm not quite sure what that was.
Okay, we've got more time to discuss this and to expand on it and see where it leads. This tour guide into discovery, indeed.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, Rebecca Jernigan. Do you want to stay with us for the next hour and hang out with Gary? He's amazing.
He is a hoot. He is a hoot. I'll tell you what, I'll listen in, sure enough. And I thank you so much for having me on. It was my pleasure and joy to, share some of these very unique experiences. Thank you, JP. I appreciate it, sweetie.
You're very welcome. We'll be back in a few minutes' time.
You're listening to Ever Beyond with JP, here on Wolf Spirit Radio.
2013 has arrived. This is the year for you to achieve whatever you set yourself to accomplish. I've been assisting people for over 30 years with their questions, clearing blockages, as well as developing their strengths and uncovering their paths. Log on to journeyswithrebecca.com and click on the appointment tab to book your session, all at a special price.
Wolf Spirit Radio.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land, to let my people go.
Oh, yes. The eternal Louis Armstrong with Let My People Go. So, we've been joined now. So, in addition to Rebecca Jernigan, all charged up from being right in the middle of the pyramid all by herself, we also have Gary the Numbers Guy, who's, I just suggested that we segue with a bit of Egypt news and Egypt numerology. So welcome to Ever Beyond once again, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Hope everyone is doing well.
Excellent. So
well, you wanted to jump off a little bit into Egypt. Let's talk a little bit about Egypt, and I'll put the numerology, astrology spin on it. And I'm not going to talk directly about the pyramids because we know Stuart Swirl is the expert on that. But when it comes to the numbers, there's definitely a lot to talk about when it comes to Egypt. In 2011, Hosni Mubarak was deposed. It happened on February 11th. Remember that number 11. Because if you go back in history, that is the same exact day that Iran became a theocracy in 1979. That's when the Shah's people got overrun and the mullahs actually took over Iran. So now we have two governments who basically took charge on February 11th. This is key. When you look at everything that's happened in the so-called Arab Spring, you'll notice it has a lot to do with the people in the Middle East. Let me give you an example. Hosni Mubarak was born 5/4/1928. 5/4/1928 adds up to 29. 2 and 9 is 11. So we have 111th life path. Over next door, we have a country by the name of Libya. Very, very rich oil country. Muammar Gaddafi used to be the guy over there. Muammar Gaddafi is born 6/7/1942. 6/7/1942 adds up to 29. 2 and 9 is 11. And recently, we're having trouble in Syria, where we have President Assad, who was born on the 11th. So you're starting to see a trend here with the 11 energy. Now we're gonna talk about. So we're gonna flip the script a little bit into the Chinese astrology because I always like to talk about this because this is oh so important. Now, what is the group that has taken power in Egypt? What's the name of them?
The Muslim Brotherhood.
The Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was formed in 1928. 1928 is the year of the dragon. Now, Mr. Musi, or whatever the hell his name is, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, the new president of Egypt. Would you care to tell everyone when he actually took power? What year was it?
I have no idea. So
2012.
2012.
Which is the year of the dragon. Dragons, people who are born in 1928, to 1988, the year of the dragon. It doesn't matter if you're a company or a place. You're going to do very well in dragon years unless the numerology supersedes it. Example, Apple. The company Apple was formed 1976. 1976, the year of the dragon. This year, its stock hit a record high in 2012, the year of the dragon. So going back to the Muslim Brotherhood, they're doing very well now because of the year of the dragon. Now let's go a little bit to Syria. Syria was formed in 1970. The regime that's in charge of Syria was formed in 1970. First it was Daddy Assad, now it's the new Assad. But 1970 is the year of the dog. The dog in dragon are enemy signs. So what you have going on here is a big conflict. What is going on in Syria right now? We're in the middle of a civil war that's intensified tenfold in 2012, the year of the dragon. Now, who was fighting Assad and his government that was formed in the year of the dog? Al-Qaeda. The Muslim Brotherhood. That's who's fighting him. And guess what? Just like the Muslim Brotherhood is formed in 1928, Al-Qaeda was founded in 1988. Again, the year of the dragon. Is this all making sense?
Well, I hope my audience is following it better than I am. But yes.
Okay, let me break it down in numerology terms. Maybe it will be a little bit. You have to basically understand when it comes to astrology, there's 12 different types of energy, and every energy has compatibility and polar opposites. And when you're in the polar opposite energy, you're gonna go through some tough experiences. But let me break down the numerology. Maybe this will be a little bit easier. The terrorist organization Al-Qaeda was formed August 11th. Okay? That number 11. They are known basically for 3 major attacks in the world. Well, actually, if you think about it, 4, if you really consider what happened in Benghazi this year. But let's start with the first one. 9/11, when the first plane to hit the World Trade Center was Flight 11, World Trade Center side by side. Looked like an 11, New York City 11 letters, Afghanistan 11 letters, the Pentagon 11 letters. Then you go to the day we attacked Afghanistan, 10/7/2001, 10/1/172/001. Again, you have an 11. So that's the one big event they did. An organization formed on the 11th, on 9/11. Next big event was in Madrid, Spain. On March 11th, 2004, when 191 people, 191 again 11, died on a plane, and Al-Qaeda took responsibility for that. Again, organization formed on the 11th. And the last big event they did was in 2006 on July 11th in India, when they blew up yet another train. And again, it happened on the 11th. So basically what I'm trying to show you is we have an organization that's formed on 11th. The 3 major terrorist attacks we're known for all happened on 11th. And there's some people out there who think they have logic and think that's a coincidence. Absolutely beyond me.
So what fate for us 11 folk? When you first came on, you said, yeah, I was at 11. So is there any hope for us? Am I destined to commit false flag events?
This is very, very important. Just because some organizations use the number 11 and its vibrational energy for evil does not mean in any shape, way, or form that the number itself or the energy behind it is evil. I'll give you an example. 11 is a very, very emotional number, and some people can't handle the emotional energy that comes with it. But when an 11 is balanced, beyond anything, they can be great teachers. Let me give you an example. The word love. Love is one of the strongest emotions, if not the strongest emotion. It's also a very positive emotion. Now, if you look at the vowels in the word love, you have O and E. O is the 15th letter, E is the 5th. 1, 5, 1. Again, you have an 11. So as strong as the negative energy that goes with the number 11 is just as strong as you can have the positive energy that goes with the number 11. Some of the, biggest philanthropists, I'm not even pronouncing that word right. Some of the, the people who go around trying to make a difference are 11s. But at the same time, you have people, who were born on 4/22 1992, which adds up to an 11, and they go up and shoot a school in America and kill a bunch of kids who are 6 years old. That's what you call unbalanced 11. See, 11s that don't handle their emotional energy, they can be a very, very negative drain on society. Whereas the positive 11s, they do everything they can to uplift society. See, it's all yin-yang. There's no negative or purely positive in one number. It can go both ways.
That's good, because I wouldn't want to be responsible for anything quite like that. Mind you,
no.
If I could wake up the world just as much as 9/11 did, that would be really cool. But,
in America, we've had 3 pretty much publicized shootings in the past, 6 weeks to 2 months. One was a Kansas City Chiefs football player, professional football player for the Kansas City Chiefs, who first killed his girlfriend and then committed suicide at the team's practice facility. He was born 7/24/1987, and if you add up the date, it adds up to an 11. So, you have one very unbalanced, emotionally 11, and you see what he did. In another shooting, we had a mall shooting about 2 months ago, and again, in that shooting, the person was born 3/16/1990. Again, 3161990 adds up to 29, 2 9 11. So now we have another case, and in this latest shooting, they're trying to take the guns away now in America. The kid, again, was an 11. So when unbalanced, 11s can be very, very dangerous. And, mostly when 11s are actually looking for help, all of these doctors can do is pop them with pills, and these pills make them even more insane. So, we have a catch-22 here. First of all, people don't understand what the problem is. If I was, if I actually had some influence over psychologists, they'd be looking for people who are 11 life paths and know to teach them to balance their emotional energy. Now, how does one balance their emotional energy? Well, one trick, and this I can assure you works because I deal with people who are athletes all the time, and most of the, great and best athletes like Michael Jordan, Jim Brown, they're 11 with Kobe Bryant, they're 11 life paths. One of the better things for 11s to do, and this might seem a little bit strange, but I can assure you it works, I've tested over the years, is to actually work out. 11s have so much emotional energy, one of the best things they can do is actually work out. That way they can burn it off. It's one of the best things you can do as an 11. And in all honesty, if you look at some of the better athletes in the world, they are 11s. So, it goes hand in hand. Another thing is, whenever it's the 11th or the 29th or any day that adds up to an 11, it's kind of strange because those are the best days to get married on. But it's also one of the days that, I wouldn't fly a plane on. I wouldn't get surgery on. Because when it comes to emotional things like love, that is something you want to do on the 11th day. But when it comes to materialism, when it comes to anything to do with, surgery or, flying, that's something you wouldn't want to do. You have to know how to use the energies correctly. And that's, unfortunately, what most people don't understand. And I got to tell you, most numerologists don't.
Well, this is a very, very good point. So, now, in my 7-ray system, which is a different harmonic to the 12-ray system, but they have a harmonic relationship, and so what you're saying is, for instance, if I were to look at it in terms of colors, and like have a rainbow wheel, that if I was not getting on with another frequency, another number, it would be because they were like opposite me on the wheel. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
You got the right direction of what I'm trying to say. Like for instance, if you're an 11 life path, it would be good to get married on 11. If you're a 5 life path, not so much.
Right. So, I have a question that's come in from Mr. Leprechaun.
Okay, Mr. Leprechaun.
Yeah. 3/20/1983. The year
3/20/1983.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does Mr. Leprechaun want to know?
Gary told me previously, this is the year of the snake. Previously, be very careful. Can you reveal a bit more about how 2013 is a bad year for pigs.
Okay.
Unless other people start to get the taste for bacon.
Well, let me give you an example. I do a lot of readings every year. I talk to a lot of people every day, and I would say about 90 to 95% of the people I talked to this year who were born in 2012, who were born in 1970, 1958, 1982, which is the year of the dog, told me they all had awful years. Now, 2012 was the year of the dragon, and the dragon's enemy sign is the dog. So it's very apparent that people born in the year of the dog would not do so well. Now, let's go a little bit further. On February 10th, 2013, we switched from a dragon year. Has a cycle. If I was in a position of power, I would make sure there was a law that said whenever it's in your opposite year cycle, you step down for a year. You do not need to be in charge. People think that's funny, but let me give you an example.
No, I think it's a really good idea. It's like a sabbatical.
George W. Bush, born 1946, the year of the dog, became the president of the United States in the year of the dragon. How did his presidency turn out? It was a failure. Now, was it because of the man himself? Might have been. Maybe, was it because of his decisions? Yeah. But the fact that he took over power in his opposite year cycle, that's it. You cannot succeed like that. If one of the wealthiest guys I know, a guy who has 10 digits in his bank account, I'm not going to say who he is or his name, but he was in his opposite year cycle in 2011. He had a terrible year. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter who you are, what kind of influence you have. If you're in the opposite year cycle, you step down. My favorite example of all time is Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein is born in 1937, the year of the ox. Saddam had a war with Iran in 1979. Notice the theocracy in Iran was formed in 1979, the year of the sheep. And Saddam being born in the year of the ox, sheep and oxes are our enemy signs, they went to war. So that was 1 year of the sheep. 12 years later, again in the year of the sheep, 1991, first Gulf War. 12 years after that, America, Britain, second Gulf War, they take him out. So every 12 years in his opposite year cycle, he got hurt. Example, if you're in your opposite year cycle, you should not be in power. You step the hell down. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it always should be.
You should spend a year in bed, yeah? Or in a cave, retreat.
In hibernation, do whatever you want, but
probably a year of meditation.
You do not need to be in a position of power because you will fail. It is that simple. I'll give you an example how some people work with the system and they succeed. Vladimir Putin, born 1952, the year of the dragon, became president the first time in 2000, dragon year, and got reelected in 2012, again a dragon year, to become president. He went with the system. It succeeded. Russia is doing a lot better than it was in 2000. They had the right person at the right time for leadership. China just elected a new president. President Xi, whatever. I know his birthday, 6/1/1953. He's born in the year of the snake. He got elected to, the power this year. But see, the Chinese are smart. They're going to make sure he doesn't take power until March. That's when it officially transfers. March 2013 will be the year of the snake. So you have a snake coming to power in a snake year. The way it should be. Right, you go against the system, you're going to get hurt.
This is rather beautiful, actually. The way that you rise and fall with the rising and falling of the numbers, and it's a bit like a Ferris wheel. You're in car number 5, car number 6, car number 7, and sometimes when car number 8 is down, car number 2 is up in the air. That's kind of what you're talking about, isn't it?
Well, here's another example. Throughout history, people just don't think about this. Adolf Hitler was born 1889, the year of the ox. 1941, he looked like the world was his. just conquered France in 1940. I mean, he had it all. No one thought they could stop the German machine. They were winning in Russia, 42. They were doing everything. All of a sudden, 1943 hit. He lost Stalingrad. Game over. After 1943, it started going against him. Again, Hitler, born in the year of the ox, in 1943, the year of the sheep. Bam.
So, as an 11 ox, what year is sheep? When's the next
215.
year?
215.
Right. So, that's the year.
You bunker down and you try not to take any risks.
So, that's the duvet year. Okay. All right, I'll remember
Everyone has it. No, nothing special. Everyone goes through it, man. That's what I love about this whole system. There's a yin yang. There's always going to be a balance. I absolutely love that. I mean, even if you go back to Roman history, Julius Caesar, the great Roman emperor, was born in the year of the dragon. And his greatest adversary in Rome was the great general Pompey. Pompey was born in the year of the dog. They started a civil war. it never stops, man. I see this all the time, just, in dealing with people. Like, for instance, if you were born in 1983, you think it's a good idea to have a kid in the year 2013? 1983 is the year of the pig, and 2013 is the year of the snake. You think it's a good idea to have a kid this year? No! This is simple things that people have to understand. Some of the happiest people I talk to in my life when I'm giving readings are the people who have great relationships with their kids. And I always look at the relationships with their kids, and it's always a positive numerology number or a positive astrology cycle. Like, for instance, someone being born in the year of sheep and having their kids born in the year of the pig or in the year of the cat. That's a very positive influence. But I noticed this is something I've noticed doing readings. A lot of people who are rich folks, I'm talking about a lot of people who got about 8-9 figures in their bank account, they always seem to have kids in their opposite signs. If they're a dog, they're going to have a kid in the year of the dragon. If they're a goat, they're going to have a kid born in the year of the ox. I've noticed that. And I find that very, very interesting. Because some of the happiest people I've talked to in my life, not the ones with the, huge bank accounts, but the ones who have great relationships as a kid. And this is knowledge that should be taught in schools. People need to be aware of this, because if they are, they won't make as many mistakes in life. And if people around us don't make as many mistakes, then they don't need Big Daddy government to be helping them and looking after. See, the more educated people are, the less they need the government. And that's why the government keeps people dumbed down. That's why they don't teach this stuff in schools, because they want people ignorant. That's my take on it.
Great. So, listen, Gary, can I just drop you and bring you back in, because you're getting that kind of funny Skypey gurgly thing.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Give me 1 second, and while I'm doing that, I can just say you're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio, which is a listener-donated radio station. Please go to wolfspiritradio.com and click on the donate button if you appreciate the programs that we give, or indeed if you would like to support the different hosts, go to various pages, or if you like to go to indeed.
A little bit better.
Let's see. Gary, do you have a website? Oh, we'll do that at the end of the program. Yeah,
I got 2 of them actually now.
Oh, excellent. Well, this is an interesting thing, right? Because both you and Rebecca and myself, indeed, we do readings on people. People come to us, and we see these flows and patterns within our different disciplines, or however we look at the world. We all, we're looking at truth from different angles, really, from our different.
Well, it's just like the different signs coming to the same conclusion in astrology. Give you an example. People born under the sign of Taurus, they study people by body language. how they move, how they use things, and that's how they can tell if people are telling the truth. Where Scorpio has the ability to look in people's eyes and tell if they're lying. So through different methods, they come to the same conclusion. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we're using a different sensorium. We're receiving on a different channel, but it's the same station.
Of course, as long as it works.
So now you say that there are harmonic years. I mean, in terms of numbers, how are they different in years on the 12 cycle there?
Well, the 12 in astrology, things go in 12s, at least in Chinese astrology and Western astrology. In numerology, things go in 9s. So it's a little bit different, but let's just put it this way. When it's a one day, any day that starts on the 1st, the 10th, the 19th, 28th, then there's a lot of one energy out there. Now, what does that mean? That means on those type of days, you can expect people to be a little bit more argumentative. Argumentative starts with A is the first letter. On those type of days, it will be a good day to start something new. It'll be a good day to actually, to go work out. Those are the type of days you want to go, be active. Again, start with the A. If those are the type of days you want to go out there and, be an athlete, under one energy. Say it's a 3-day. Well, if it's a 3-day, that's a day that you might want to be a little bit more social. 3 days are all about communication. Communication starts with C. C's the third letter. Some of the top talk show hosts in the world, Howard Stern and Rush Limbaugh, the two most recognized talk show hosts in the world, they're both born not only in the same day, but they're both born on the 12th. 1 and 2 is 3. You'll notice a lot of people who have that 3 number or who are born on the 3rd, 12th, 21st, or 30th, they have a inclination to be in the media. Look at Katie Couric. She's a 3 life path. So you have a lot of energies that if you go with it instead of going against it, it'll help you out. Example, 4 is the number of law and order. Well, let me tell you something. If you're doing something illegal and you're doing it on a 4-day, the chances of you getting, stopped and getting arrested by the police are up tenfold. You don't do illegal things on 4 days, and the government knows this. Let me give you an example how the government knows this. Barack Obama told Gaddafi he had to step down for the first time on February the 4th, 2011. He did it on the 4th because he wanted to put the element of law and order behind it. Now, last year, on March the 4th, 2012, Obama told Gaddafi he had to step down for the first time. Again, he did it on the 4th because he wanted to bring that law and order element with it. Don't think for a second that people in the government don't use this stuff. Don't think that for a second. Now, maybe Barack Obama doesn't understand what it means, but believe me, he has handlers that actually tell him, do this on this day, do this on this day. Obamacare, what they call the Health Care Act, was signed 3/23/2010. 3232010 adds up to 11. Not only that, but that SOB, he signed his name with 11 different pens that day. They said they did it for ceremonial reasons. Yeah, right. People have to understand that people in positions of power use this knowledge. Example, if it's a 7-day, that's the best day to basically enlighten yourself. Study. Try to problem solve. 7 is a thinking number. That's not the day you should be going out there trying to concern yourself with making money. So if you go with the system, no matter if you're a realtor, no matter if you're an athlete or a poet, if you go with the system, it will benefit you. Knowledge is power. I keep telling people.
So that is an absolute truth, and that's one of the reasons that I do this, is to bring in as much knowledge and bring it all into the same kind of pool. So there you are, you're talking about systems of 12 and systems of 9. Here I talk about systems of 7 and systems of 3. And in the end, we're all one. At the end of the day, we're all one, but it's not the end of the day yet, and all that stuff.
Well, here's something interesting I'll tell you. If you write 3 on a piece of paper, not just the number 3, but the word 3 itself, THREE, it's going to add up to an 11. If you write the word 7 down, SEVEVEN, it's going to add up to an 11. Using the system, the Pythagoras system, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. So you being 11 and you doing things in 3s and 7s, believe me, there's a connection there too.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Numbers numbers answer a lot of things in life. You know, before I was a numerologist, I wanted to know why some people were good athletes, why some people were poor, why some people were good looking, why some people had mega money. I have all those answers now. I wonder, like, for instance, when it comes to wealth, I mean, 3 of the 5 richest people in the world, including the 2 richest people in the world, born on the 28th. I mean, that's not a joke. Here's the thing. A lot of people ask me, well, not everyone born on the 28th is rich. You're right. Just to talk to a woman in line today, I'm just the type of person, if I'm in a line, a grocery store, I'll be conversational. To me, that's what I practice. And, I start talking to people. The funny thing is that in Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from, they recognize my voice now. So they're like, oh, you're the guy from the radio. But anyways, I talked to a woman today.
When that happens?
Oh, it's awful. If I go to a casino, I can't even play cards because, these people recognize my voice and know what I look like. So they don't want to play cards with me. Whatever, that's my own problems. But, I talked to a woman today and she was born on the 28th and she's like, I'm not rich. I was like, tell me if this is not true. And this was, I had a crowd in front of me by this time. I was like, every time you need money, somehow, some way it comes to you. And she's like, 100%. Born on the 28th. That would be true about anyone born on the 28th. I had a buddy when I was younger. This guy, I used to work, and this guy just go to the casino and win money. I was like, what the hell is going on? Why can he do this? I tried. I can count cards. I can't do it like him. I'm like, what is going on here? I found out years later he's born on the 28th. Made sense then.
Everything made sense.
Everything made sense. Back in the day, I wanted to know why some people were very good looking. Well, guess what? Women who are born on the 5th, 14th, and 23rd, not only highly sexual, they're actually very good looking too.
Uh-oh, Rebecca.
It is what it is. And this is knowledge I keep telling people. You don't teach people this just to say, just so they know. Because you know how many numerologists out there actually have the knowledge, but they refuse to use it in the right way. It's absolutely pathetic. Like for instance, if you go, I'm giving out a trade secret right now, but whatever. If you go to my website, all my readings are charged $53, $125. All my readings are basically charged in 8. 8 is the number of money. I'm attracting money by doing that. So, I tell other people who are in my line of work, why aren't you doing the same thing? And they'll give me some BS response because they don't know any better. They know the knowledge, but they don't use it.
Gary?
See, the Chinese use the knowledge. The Chinese started the Olympic Games on 8/8/2008. 8 plus 2, 0, 0, 8 adds up to 26. 2 and 6 is 8. They use the knowledge the right way. Other people don't. That's the point. You have to use the knowledge the correct way. And if everyone in the world uses knowledge the correct way, we will eliminate 95% of the problems there are. I can guarantee everyone. All these problems that we need big daddy government for right now, we won't need them anymore. And people just don't listen.
And this is how to go with the flow, is to get in tune with the number that is going on in the moment that you're in. So
Correct.
It's worthwhile. No, actually, one of my friends, the listener, Leprechaun, he's a gentleman from London, and he's an avid fan of yours because he's learning about numerology and astrology and the 7 rays and all of these things, and a very astute individual. So that was who you were. So I'd just like to say, you've inspired a lot of people. That's something to.
Well, I try to do that because, I remember a great man once said, I might not be able to change the world, but the people I teach might be able to.
Yes, absolutely.
Just think of it that way. I might not be alive, by the time, every CEO, every sports team, every doctor, has a numerologist telling them when to do this, when to do that, because they'll understand that, numerology is the one perfect science there is. Yeah, you can put a little bit of astrology, a little tarot, a little bit, but numerology supersedes all of it. Remember, all the astrology signs, they're all numbered for a reason. Aries is the first sign for a reason. You understand what the number 1 means, you already understand half the Aries. So, if people have to understand that type of thinking, And I think in 2013, the year of the snake, that type of thinking would become a lot more prevalent. Because let me tell you something. I've noticed that, through, dealing with people who are in this business, when it comes to tarot, a lot of people get inspired in the year of the snake because the snakes, bring that type of knowledge out there. Nostradamus was a snake. Rasputin, the guy who worked for the, Russian Tsar, was a snake. So, a lot of people with that type of, energy are very in tune with this. But not saying others can't, because, like, for instance, the pig. The pig starts with the P. P is the 16th letter. 1 and 6 is 7. So, and naturally, people who have that energy vibration will be more inclined to, look at stuff like numerology and astrology.
Right. We have a question, I think. Today is the 13th. My birthday is the 26th. Double the 13th. Any comments?
No, that's not how numerology works. That is not numerology.
Arithmetic and numerology don't mix like that.
No. One of Hitler's big mistakes was he believed very strongly in the number 13, and he figured he'd start war in 1939 because 39 times 3 times 13 is 39. So he figured if he started on that number that year, he'd had great success. Because what people don't understand was, he was a numerologist too. Unfortunately, wasn't a very good. I mean, fortunately, he wasn't a very good one.
Fortunately for the world, his occult knowledge was really limited.
Fortunately, he was not a very, very good numerologist because. If he was, he would have known never to attack Russia, and who knows what would have happened. Sometimes it works to sometimes you have to be careful what you release out there because you don't want the information to get into the wrong people's hands. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, there was another blip out there, and you kind of cut out and then squiddled back in. But anyway, I think we got most of that. So yeah, Hitler wasn't a very particularly good numerologist. Did he make assumptions that would obviously he made some assumptions, but I mean about like you're saying about the way that numbers relate. You trying to mix arithmetic with numerology. It's like we're on a completely different level, isn't it?
No, he in numerology, like anything else, there's a foundation. And if you don't understand the basics of numerology, then your foundation will not be very sturdy. And all the assumptions you make off that foundation that isn't very sturdy are even going to be more off. So, at some point the whole thing is going to implode. So that's exactly the same way I feel about, people who are numerologists who don't understand certain things, because when you have incorrect information, you're making assumptions off incorrect information. And, it was fortunate that Hitler, who, definitely did have astrologers and numerologists working for him, and he was one himself, he did not have the correct information. So that's a good thing. I'll tell you one thing was that someone told me that, that was very aware. Muammar Gaddafi, the leader of Libya, who was born on the 7th and was an 11, he was very into numerology and astrology. But the thing was, Muslim cultures, that's not very accepted. So he had to keep that hidden. He had astrologers and numerologists working for him. So from what I understand, the American government contacted his astrologers and numerologists and made them send him fake reports. Take that for what it's worth.
Interesting psychological warfare. So they've probably got it down to a fine art now that they can send psychics to telepathic messages that will lead their leaders astray.
Well, the remote viewers, the psychics, all the other stuff. I'm not saying they can't do that, but the people who are very, very good at it are few and far in between. That's one. And the second thing is, the people who remote view a lot, they actually deteriorate their bodies. The body isn't made to handle remote viewing, and the people who do that type of stuff, they age very, very rapidly. So that's just a warning. You don't think that you get a benefit of doing something without a negative coming back at you.
Uses up your chi. So, so for instance, there's an interesting thing. Now, you've spoken before about sevens being really clever, and fives being very beautiful. What about very psychic, like Rebecca? Rebecca she's born on the 14th. What's your number? Do you know Rebecca's numbers? Can you remember? Or?
I remember she was a dragon. I don't remember. I talked to a lot of people, but people who are born on the 14th, they can sense things. Their senses are very, very open, and a lot of their abilities comes from that area. The psychics themselves, I have noticed that the sevens tend to. In the 11s and the 3s, they tend to have a lot of psychic abilities. Where the 5s, they seem very good at sensing things. And if you look at psychic, it begins with P. P is the 16th letter. 1 and 6 is 7. So it does make sense that the 7s would be a little bit more open in that arena than most.
Right. So this is fascinating. So in the Ray situation, the odd numbers and the even numbers were a kind of yin-yang thing, that the odd ones are hard numbers and the even ones are soft numbers, Is there a quality, does that quality carry over in that?
Of course. The 7 being a very, very spiritual number, and 8 is a very, very materialistic number. 7s and 8s don't really see eye to eye.
Yes. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I'm getting.
I'm here.
Yep. Sorry, you disappeared there. I'm having trouble. I think a lot of people are having trouble with the Flash player crashing in the chat room. Keeps on falling over. I don't know what it's doing. Maybe it's going completely crazy. So there's the yin numbers and the yang numbers. So we have.
Let me give you an example of the yin yang and how numerology works to it.
Oh, okay.
The 1 is the new beginning. The 1 is the yang energy. The yin energy is the completion energy. The yin energy is represented by the number 9, which is the number of completion. So now let's look at the word yang. What is the vowel in the word yang? It's A. A is the first letter of the alphabet. The yang energy is connected with the day energy. What is the first vowel in A? In day. It is A. Again, the first letter. So now let's go flip the script and look at the yin. The yin, the vowel in yin is I. I is the 9th letter. What is connected to the yin energy? The night. The completion. Night, what's the vowel there? I. Again, 1, 9, yin, yang. Make sense?
Wow. Yeah. So, there are harmonic relationships around that 12. So you're saying, like the harmonic of opposite is like clashing.
Well, in numerology, it's 1 and 9 are somewhat opposites, but when it comes to astrology and the 12 signs, it's a little bit different because the 1 and 2 are not opposite energies. They're basically 1 deals with the male, 1 deals with the feminine. And one would think that would be opposite, but they're not, because 1, 2 equals 3, which is childlike energy. I find that very, ironic. And I just want to point out, to the listening audience, I'm not going to make a political statement. I'll just point this out. 1 equals male energy, 2 equals female energy. When you combine 1 and 2, you have 3, which is childlike energy. And when you combine 1, 2, and 3, you have 6, and 6 in numerology is home and family. Perfect. It goes right with the laws of nature.
Brilliant. So, right. So we have one question from the chat room. March the 23rd, 1974. 3/23/1974.
That's an 11.
Here's another 11. And he's now a presenter. Interesting.
Well, he's born on the 23rd, which means, he's going to be, have a good mouthpiece on him. People born on the 3rd, or with 5 energy, definitely know how to talk when they want to. He can be very entertaining when he wants to be. Obviously, since he's an 11, he just like you wants to uplift society. The problem with some 11s is they want to help others and they don't know how to help themselves. And they need to, once they get themselves figured out, the 11s are, very, very good with helping others like you are. But there's some very, very imbalanced 11s out there. But going back to the question, 1974, you have to watch 1974s because they are somewhat impulsive. Sometimes they jump into things without thinking about it. The good thing about being born in 1974 is like bouncing in youth. So someone born on 3/23/1974, they're going to look way younger than their age. And, when they're 50, they're going to look like they're in their 30s. When they're in their 70s, they're going to look like they're in their 50s. To me, being born in 1974, 62, that's the found youth because that's tiger energy.
Wow. So, can you see in the chat room?
And have a very good year in 214.
So, 214,
214, 1955.
Yeah, this is Rebecca and a very special psychic. So I'm interested in what's the number of the psychic.
1 second. 215. She's a 1. Interesting. One thing I will say about her is if she does have psychic abilities, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that number one, she has a lot of not psychic as so much, but into sensing. She can sense a lot. Some people might call that psychic energy. But I look at her. She has 2 5s in the back end of her birthday. That's born 1955. That means a lot right there. Also, the fact that she's an Aquarius, which is the 11th sign, that definitely helps out. I've noticed this. Aquariuses, they're the most easygoing people to get along with, but they have very, very difficult times with relationships, and that has a lot to do with Aquarius being the 11th sign.
Wow, interesting. I just realized.
Was she born on the 14th or 15th?
On the 14th, though.
Yeah, okay, you said, 15th, you said 15th at the very beginning. Also, she's very adaptive. She can adapt to any situation very, very quickly. That's one of her greatest gifts. And I'll tell you another thing. If a person like her was around a lot of people with psychic ability, her energy would pick up on that.
Oh, yes, I would say. Is that right, Rebecca?
Yeah, it is. It's right on. Right on.
So he's got some good things here.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to the top of the hour, and everybody started to put their numbers in. And we're going to have another show. Gary, I would love to hear from you, more. Everybody would, you're...
You got me on Skype, just tell me when.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I would definitely try to accommodate.
Okay, so I like this one. Oh, right. So, yes. Let's do some quickies, right? Some real just rapid fire off the top of your head. 2nd of December, 1966. And the question is when to take action and start a new life.
2nd of December, 1966. Now is the time. You are in a 1-year cycle right now. That's new beginnings. I am a numerologist of the school of thought that your year cycle starts when your birthday hits. Some numerologists are in the school of thought that it starts when January 1st hits. That's the one big difference I have with most numerologists. I believe right now, her being in a 1-year cycle, that's when I would make the move. Also, this person has to make sure that stubborn nature of theirs does not get in the way because, when you have someone born in the year of the horse, and they're also a Sagittarius, which is half horse, half human, you're talking about one stubborn individual. Sometimes they're stubborn just for the sake of being stubborn, so you have to be very, very careful with that. This person is also a little bit sensitive on the sensitive side, which is very interesting because this person's on the sensitive side, but when people ask them stuff, they're very blunt. they're going to be very blunt about the way they tell people what they think and what they do. But on the flip side, they're going to be sensitive. So, no, that's something for them to work on too. And 214 should be a very good year. So, that you can look around 214s to give you a boost in life too.
That's amazing. Gary, I have to say that I did change my pricing according to your system. And
you're smart.
And it's working.
No, listen, brother, you're smart, okay? I'm not going to sound cocky. I've made the mistakes so other people haven't, so other people don't have to. I already did the trial and error. I made all the corrections. If people listen to me, this world will be a lot better off. And I understand that sounds very cocky, but I just got to tell you, I have a lot of answers, and it's just the way it is. Me being a 33 life path. Some people don't like the attitude that comes with it. I mean, what can I say? It is what it is.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Take it. So, website, contact details. How do people get a reading? Do you do a recording? I mean, wow.
Oh, they can do a recording if they want to. I perform a lot of, different, type of readings. People want basic readings, basic numerology, astrology readings, or, some people want to know when's the best time to start a company. Some people want to know, when's the best time to get married. I handle a lot of that type of, stuff right now. Also, what I find very important is, some people just want to know, about business, the stock market. I basically figured out how to use numerology in the stock market, how to use numerology, to basically, put if you want to, see if a team's going to win. Not right all the time, but I'm right at such a high percentage that I might as well be. So depending on what you want to do, there's a lot of different things I can provide a service with. You can reach me on Twitter. My Twitter file is Numerology Now, and I'm sure a lot of people on Twitter are listening right now. Also, if you want to go to my websites, one is Gary the Numbers Guy. Just Google Gary the Numbers Guy. That's my main site. Interesting story about that. Talking about 11 days. On December the 12th, 2012. Okay. Gary the Numbers Guy.net and the number 33. 33 is the number. GaryNumbersGuy.net and 33 is the number. That's my website.
33 is the number. Thank you very much. Rebecca Jernigan, you join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays on Revolution Radio, Morph Spirit Radio. And thank you for coming along to the show this afternoon. And Gary, thank you very much for coming on the show this afternoon. And I hope everybody's had a fantastic time listening to this lot, because it's been brilliant. Here we go.
Thank you.